All right. Good morning, everybody. Today we are going to talk a little bit of baseball. I've had a lot of people comment and ask me, what should I do with this prospect? What should I do with that prospect? And so we're going to talk a little bit about the prospects. I'm going to cover, I think, the top 20 prospects right now. And what I'm going to do is cover where they're at currently. We're going to talk about their Bowman Chrome first base non-autos, just so we can compare everything kind of equally, because not everybody has an auto, not everybody has refractors. So I thought the easiest way to compare this would just be to compare the base Chrome first non-auto PSA 10s. So we're going to start out with the number one prospect, Jackson Holliday. Holliday got sent down to the minors. It sounds like that was the plan the whole entire time for the Baltimore Orioles. They were pretty much, unless Jackson Holliday would have gone ballistic in spring training, and he had a good spring training, but unless he had gone ballistic, the whole entire idea was for Jackson Holliday the whole entire time to get sent down for the start of the season. Hey, Craig, what's up? Farrow, School Creek Cards, Josh Horner, thanks for joining and watching. So Jackson Holliday, cards are down a little bit. I think there might be a buying opportunity here. I actually got caught with my pants down a little bit. I had an auction for a raw Bowman Chrome first auto that was slated to end the night that he got announced he got sent down. So that didn't bring as much as the one I had sold 2 weeks prior. So I felt a little bit of the dip already myself, but I do think that it's probably a good thing for Jackson Holliday and for his cards because he was getting, as everybody was, getting overshadowed by Wyatt Langford. Wyatt Langford, I would say, is this year's Ellie De La Cruz. He just went absolutely bonkers in spring training. Hitting home runs, hitting for average, stealing bases. He looks like a several-year veteran already. He looks comfortable. He is the front runner for Rookie of the Year this year. He kind of leapfrogged some of the other guys. And I think that Wyatt Langford is the fact that he made it and his cards continue to go nuts. I think it's a good thing for Jackson Holliday's cards and prices. So watch for the dip, buy into Jackson Holliday here, and you should be able to profit very well from that when he gets the call up. My guess is, listening to the Orioles organization, my guess is that it could be, I was thinking it'd be like a 30-day call up and he'd be up in early May. It sounds like they may leave him sit down there unless he just goes nuts. They may leave him sit down there till June or July, which is crazy, but they have a plan and their team is stacked so they can afford to do things like that. The next player we're going to talk about, obviously we already mentioned him, is Wyatt Langford. Oh, didn't talk about prices. Jackson Holliday's base Chrome first PSA 10 is currently selling for $113. That's down 20% in the last 60 days. Craig, wondering if his prices dip or hold steady. I think his prices have already dipped 15 to 20% across the board. I don't know if they're going to dip any lower than that. I think it was just a small little blip on the radar for all the people that were disappointed he didn't make the club. And I think that as soon as minor leagues start and he starts ripping the cover off the ball down there like he was in spring training, the hype will start to build again and you will see his cards go up. I don't think this window of opportunity could be short-lived, or if he doesn't get called up till June or July, you could see his cards dip another 15 or 20% in May, much like Ellie's did last year. But I don't think you can compare Ellie and Holiday, they just seem to be on two different paths. So I don't think, although it's a lot of people are going to want to compare them, I don't think those two are comparable. I think Ellie is more comparable to Wyatt Langford than he is to Jackson Holiday. Wyatt Langford, his Bowman cards are down 24% in the last 60 days. His base first is selling for $90. It's still selling for almost $25 less than Jackson Holiday, which is a bit crazy considering that Langford has pretty much dwarfed every other prospect in the minor leagues in spring training. All of the focus, media attention, everything was on Langford because he came in as advertised and did not disappoint from his first at bat on. But because his cards only came out 4 months ago, that's why they're down in the last 60 days. But I wouldn't be surprised to see those two flip flop and Langford's bases going for a little bit more than Holiday's. Although $90 for a base is expensive. I know Ellie's got up to 180, $200 last year. I don't think that we're going to see a repeat of that. I think $80 to $100 for a base Chrome First is a good price. And I think that's why Holidays could fall a little bit more here as the season starts to unfold. Jackson Holiday, Jackson Chourio has got to be, for me, the biggest disappointment of the spring training. Not because of his performance. He's performing very, very well for a kid of his age to come in and bat almost 300 in spring training, have a few stolen bases, have a couple of highlight reel catches in the outfield. Jackson Chourio is for real, guys. If you've being a Brewer fan, I'm more invested in Chourio than I am in any of the other players. But Chourio has not disappointed at all. The Brewers are ecstatic with what they're seeing. He just hasn't had the power in the spring training that he had in the minor leagues. And that'll come. You got to remember, he just turned, I think he just turned 19 years old. He is so young to be in the major leagues already. So Chourio is only going to get better as he gets older, more mature. But his card prices have suffered. So in retrospect and hindsight, I'm not afraid to say when I was wrong. Back in December when he got that big contract and everybody was asking, should you hang on? Should you sell now or hang on till spring training? I advised to hang on till spring training. It's what I did with my cards. And in retrospect, I was wrong. The peak of his card prices were on the news of his signing. And it makes sense now that I think about it, because in spring training, he was competing with Langford and Holiday for news media coverage. And because he wasn't as flashy and wasn't hitting the home runs, he's not getting the media coverage. Whereas when he signed that $80 million deal, all eyes were on him. So lesson learned on that one. You can chalk up any losses there to my opinions. I apologize on that. I got that one wrong. I'm not always right, guys. I am just like you. I am not an expert. I am a collector that's been doing this for a long time, and I try and share my experience and stuff with you guys. But I am not always right, which is evident by Jackson Chourio. However, his base Chrome First are still selling for around $50. Although they did hit $80 on the news of his $80 million contract. $50 is still, I think, a pretty good price for a base Chrome First. The pop of that card is already over 2,000. So to still be going for $50 isn't bad. I'm still looking for Chourio to start the season and get hot and do something. I think when he hits that first bomb, you might see a little blip in his prices. I do have half of my Chourios currently listed on auctions right now on eBay. I am holding the other ones as a gamble. I am going to start them probably the first or second week of the month, and hope that he starts and does something spectacular, or gets hot, or hits a home run or something, gets some news cycle going, makes a spectacular catch. He needs to get on ESPN a little bit at the beginning of the year, and you could see his prices rise again. This might be a mistake, and I could lose some money making this risk, but I have so many Churio cards that I thought it would be a little bit of a risk, but it's what I'm willing to take with Churio because I believe in him long term. And if I end up with a bunch of Churio in my personal collection because they bottomed out to zero, I will not be disappointed. It's a Brewer card, and I'll throw them in my safe. I don't really care. I don't need the money from it. I'm just hoping he does well and the Brewers do well. So moving on to Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill was a surprise in spring training. He was expected to make the big league club this year, but not in the fashion of which he did. He really earned his spot. He had a good opening day in Korea. So there's been a lot of hype around his cards to the point where his cards in the last 60 days, his base Chrome First PSA 10 is up 84% in the last 60 days. His card is currently selling for $76. That is the third most of any of these players we're going to talk about. Right behind, actually, it's the fourth most. I apologize. Right behind Holiday at 113, Langford at 90, Paul Skeens at 80, and Merrill at $76. So if you have Jackson Merrill cards, you best be getting rid of them now. I don't see these prices holding. Cash in if you've got Merrill. If you don't have Merrill, that's okay. He was down the list a little bit, but it just goes to show what some good performances could do, and I'm hoping Churio kind of follows that path as the season gets started. Junior Caminero, I still think has the tool. He's a 5-tool player, and I still think that if and when he gets called up to the big league club, he has the offensive skill set to challenge for Rookie of the Year. It just depends on how soon he gets called up. Everybody kind of assumed he was going to make the club out of spring training because they called him up at the end of last year. However, he struggled a little bit in spring training, like he struggled a little bit at the end of last year. So they're going to give him some reps down in AAA. And I think that Caminero could get called up, but I don't think at this point Caminero is somebody that I want to go spending additional money on. I've got about 20 of his cards. I was waiting for the news that he made the club to sell, so I am going to sit and hold on those cards until he gets the call up again, and then I'm going to sell upon call up. But his cards right now are down 40%. His base Chrome First PSA 10 is selling most recently for $28. Mark just commented, my Wyatt has auto PSA 10 is still sitting in buy it now for $1,050. As watchers made them offers, but no bites. Put in an auction for how long, ending when? Yeah, Mark, I would be nervous hanging on to, not real nervous because I think Langford is legit, but with the call up, if he struggles at all early in the season, you can see his cards dip. If he stays hot all the way through the season and he ends up being Rookie of the Year, you can see his cards continue to steadily climb. So I'm kind of 50-50 on Langford, but if that was my card and I had, it's $1,000 tied up, I would put it on a 10-day auction. I would start it tonight. I would promote the listing, and then it gives you the first week of the season. It gives you 2 weekends. It'll end on the second weekend of the season. So yeah, I would, if you're not getting any bites at that, and you want to move the card, I would do an auction 10-day. Get rid of the buy it now and do 10-day. I'd start it at $1. I know a lot of people start cards at $300, $400, $500. I don't see the point in that. I start everything at $1 if I'm going to run an auction, because the more eyeballs you can get and the more watchers you can get, typically the more money that that card's going to bring. When you start it at half the price of what you're expecting, uh, you may end up getting there. And I'm not saying it's a bad tactic. I'm just saying it limits the amount of early views that you get. And I oftentimes look for people that start listings too high, and those are good snipe candidates. So I would start it at $1. I would trust in Wyatt Langford, and I'd let that thing ride if it was mine, because I'd want to cash in on that card while he was hot, Mark. Moving on to the next one, we're going to move on to Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens got sent down. I think he's going to be an early call-up. I think he will be a May call-up for the Pittsburgh Pirates. They just want him to work on a few of his pitches, get a little bit more experience at the AAA level, and really hone in before they call him up to the big league club. But there's no doubt Skeens is getting called up to the big league club this year, and it'll be early in the season. As I mentioned before, his cards are sitting at $80 right now for a Bowman Chrome First non-auto PSA 10. And that in the last 60 days is down 42%. Again, like Langford, it's because the cards came out in December and they still haven't found their floor. I do expect that card to continue to drop early in the season, and I do expect it to climb when he gets the actual call-up. So there could be a buying opportunity for Skeens mid to end April if his prices dip like I think they will. Evan Carter is in the top 10. I don't really consider Evan Carter a top 10 prospect, just simply because he had such a large sip of coffee in the big leagues last year, performed well in the playoffs. I don't really look at him as a prospect anymore, but according to Major League Baseball, he hasn't had enough at bats, so he qualifies for Rookie of the Year. Evan Carter is a very good player. For the Rangers' future to have Langford and Carter, their future is very bright. Evan Carter is down 81% in the last 60 days, down to $56. Evan Carter is not a player I'm looking to invest in at this point. I would expect, even if he starts out well, that price will continue to drop. I think those prices are still coming down from last year's playoffs. Ethan Salas. Ethan Salas is a player that his cards are up 8%. It's up to $59 in the last 60 days. Again, I expect this card to drop a little bit once the season gets started. Salas really struggled in spring training. Defensively, he is fantastic, but his offense needs a lot of work before he is major league ready. So I don't think that he will get called up this year at all. If he did, maybe in September. But I think they're, as young as he is, I think they're going to be satisfied with letting him spend the year in the minors and really work on his swing. There again, just like Churio, he is so young that it just doesn't make sense to rush him to the bigs. Good morning. Welcome to the live stream. So Ethan Salas is a player I think could be one of the top prospects going into next year. It could be the top prospect going into next year, as many of these guys are going to fall off this list. For sure, probably going to be top 5. So I think there's buying opportunities on Salas throughout the course of the year, but I'm waiting on Salas till midseason when people have kind of forgotten about him a little bit. And I think that his prices, which are currently up a little bit, are going to drop as the season goes on. There again, his cards came out in, I think, August, September last year. So you're going to see those prices drop as the year goes on. Colson Montgomery, down 24%. His card's at $25. Man, that seems cheap for a prospect this high on the prospect rankings. Colson Montgomery is a very good player. The question is, even though he's in the Chicago organization, is he going to get overshadowed by some of these other call-ups? Last year, we had quite a few good players where we saw no movement in their prices at all because they didn't do anything flashy and because some other prospects outshined them, and therefore they didn't really move much. I think Colson could be in that category, but he has the tools that $25, guys. It wouldn't take much for that to be a $50 card and you double your money. So I think I'm interested in Colson cards in that $20 to $25 range. I do think he's going to get called up before July. So there could be a good buying opportunity there as the season gets started for Colson Montgomery. Max Clark showed that he is a very good prospect. There is no chance that he gets called up in 2024. So I do think that Clark is a person that you're going to see his cards continue to fall throughout the course of the summer. Currently at $46 for his base Chrome first. It's down 42%. And I think that you're really gonna see that continue to correct as the summer goes on. People are going to kind of forget about him because he's not going to be in conversations to get called up at the end of the year. But he is an excellent player and one to watch for next spring. I made a lot of money on Max Clark cards this year, buying them in February and flipping them in March. I've still got 2 left, but Clark has been a very good buy and sell for me. James Wood. I'd be remiss not to talk about James Wood. James Wood had a fantastic spring training. Batted close to 300, hit some absolute tape measure shots, hit some bombs, some of the longest bombs in all of spring training. The hype was around James Wood. I was actually quite a bit surprised because the Nationals are not that great of a team. I really thought that he would have made the club coming out of spring training. But again, because of the Langford cloud that's taking place right now, I think that it's probably a good thing for James Wood. Hopefully Wood and Holiday do not get called up at the same time in spring training. That would be bad for Wood's prices as well. But I do think that Wood is up 11%, but his card is still only $36. So I think Wood is a very good, even though he's up a little bit, I think he's a good buying opportunity. I would wait a week or two into the season as people kind of start to forget about spring training. That first week or two, you start to see prospect cards slowly drop. So I'm going to wait a few weeks and then I'm going to buy some more James Wood for a call up. He is for sure going to get called up. I would be shocked if he's not up by the 4th of July. Any prospects to grab now that got sent down may come up in the next month or two. Yeah, sorry you missed the beginning, but yeah, there have been a few. Paul Skeens is, as you mentioned, is one. James Wood is one. Jackson Holiday is another one. As well as Ethan Salas. Those are Junior Caminera could be another one because of his prices are getting cheap. Also upset the Churio spike hasn't happened. Yeah, I covered that in the beginning of the thing too, if you want to go back and watch. But I'm hoping Churio gets hot and really starts to take hold. But I'm so excited. Churio is playing great in spring training. If he can play like that and grow as the season goes on, he's so young. The sky is the limit for Churio, and I'm not concerned about him or his prices. $50 is still not a bad price, although I would have liked to have seen it in that $75, $80 range. Churio is going to be just fine, and I think so will his card prices. Marcelo Meyer, he's down 41%, $23 right now for his Chrome first non-auto. That seems pretty cheap for somebody in the Boston organization. If he plays well this year, you could easily see that card double. So Meyer's another one I'm going to watch his prices in the first couple weeks of the year. Pete Crow Armstrong, his cards are pretty much flat. I don't think that because he had got that call up late in the year last year. People know that he's going to be coming back up probably, I would guess, in May. His prices have kind of held flat. They're at $45, which is a pretty good price for his cards for his base non-first. That's not a card I would be looking to buy right now. I could see that dipping as the season starts before he gets called up. Samuel Basallo, he doesn't have a base first non-autographed, so I had to look at his autographed. He's the only one on this list that does not have a first non-auto. His auto first base card is sitting at $275 in a PSA 10. That's down 11%. Basallo, as you heard in the previous episode, I am extremely high on Basallo. Basallo might be my number one buying prospect for next season. But right now his prices are a little bit too pricey. He got a lot of buzz in spring training and his cards jumped up a little bit. So I'm going to wait for that to cool back down before I jump back in and buy some more Basallo. But he's another guy, much like Ethan Salas, that's going to more than likely be a top 5 prospect going into next season. He has a great bat. The Orioles are just loaded with bats, but Basallo is definitely a guy that is on my radar for purchasing more of. As this, I want to do in-season purchases because I do think that you're going to see that in-season dip take place with Basallo. Brooks Lee had an okay spring training. His cards are currently sitting at $25, which is actually up 3% in the last 60 days. Brooks Lee doesn't get a lot of media hype. So I don't know as though it's a player I would want to invest in. He's in a small market club in Minnesota. I think I stay away from Brooks Lee, although I think he's going to be a fine player. Colton Cowser, another Baltimore Oriole prospect. He's flat in the last 60 days at $46. Cowser, another very good bat for the Orioles. I'm not looking at buying any Cowser either. Matter of fact, I sold out of Cowser in the spring training last couple of weeks. Colt Keith, unfortunately, he got injured during spring training, didn't get many reps, but he's going to be, when he's healthy, which he's back now, he's going to be the starting second baseman, it sounds like, for the Detroit Tigers. So I would be selling Colt Keith right now as the season starts. His cards have already dipped 6%, but they're still at $73. So I would be selling off Colt Keith as I expect that number to drop as the season starts. There are a couple of players so that pretty much covers the top 20. But what I want to cover here is I want to cover a couple of players. One of them being both of them in the Baltimore Orioles organization. So we're always looking for that next great thing. And so I wanted to share with you guys 2 players that I am interested in. They did not make the club. They're kind of blocked in the Orioles organization, but they both had good spring trainings, and that is Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby. I expect the Orioles to trade those guys this year. And I expect them to probably get traded for pitching, as the Orioles are stacked at position players. I think that you could see them trade them for either a solid starter or some relief. I think Baltimore could still use some good arms in the bullpen for short-term relief. I think that's where the Orioles are going to focus. But when you look at Kyle Stowers, he led almost the entire spring training. He had 7 home runs, 14 RBIs. He slashed a 256, 267, 744 line. He had a down year last year. He was one of the top prospects. He was rising fast, but he's an outfielder and he's blocked. He's got nowhere to go in the Baltimore Orioles organization, and his cards are cheap. So he's a player that I'm looking at buying with speculation that I think he's a very good trade candidate. And if he got traded to almost any other major league team, he instantly gets called up to the big leagues. He is big league ready, and he's got some pop in his bat, which is going to create some hype. So I'm looking for Stowers to get traded this year during the season. And when that happens, I think there could be a good spike in his prices. So that is a player that I am going to recommend that you potentially have some profits to be had if that happens. Connor Norby's another one. He slashed the line at 276, 344, 483, which wasn't a bad line, wasn't that great. He had 1 home run in spring training, but Norby has proven himself at AAA last year. He is a solid player. Last year, he had 21 RBIs, 21 home runs, 92 RBIs. Norby would be a premier prospect in almost any other organization, but he is blocked by Henderson, Westberg, and Holiday. So there's just nowhere for Norby to go. So it would make sense that Norby would get traded this year, potentially, like I said, for a relief pitcher of some sort. So those are 2 players that you could potentially take a look at buying and watching. If they do get traded, you could see a spike in their prices. Thoughts on Kobe Mayo? Kobe Mayo is a player that I do think his bat is going to force the Orioles organization to make a roster spot. And I think that it's going to come via trade. They're going to unload a couple of their veteran players to make room for Norby, but I understand why he got sent down at the beginning of the year. They just don't have the room for him on the big league club to be able to play consistent enough baseball to not hinder his progress. So Norby is probably sitting there waiting, much like Jackson Holiday. You are going to see some moves by the Orioles via trade, I think, and because they've got some solid players. I think they're going to try and make some room, and you're going to see both of those guys called up by midseason at the latest. Kobe Mayo has an absolute phenomenal stick. That guy can hit. He proved it in spring training. I really, really like Kobe Mayo. I've bought a couple of Kobe Mayos in the last 2 weeks. Even though his prices were up a little bit, he was a player that I thought equally to Jackson Holiday had a shot at opening day, but the Orioles they have a plan. They're sticking to it. And I expect both of those guys to get called up mid-season. So I wanted to, since we talked about all the prospects, kind of covered the top 20, I also wanted to throw out some raw to grade options for you guys. I don't want to ever not leave you with some opportunities to make some profits here. So James Wood is a player that's in the top 20. His 2022 Bowman Chrome Prospect Auto first base card is one that has opportunities for raw to grade. Right now, that card is selling for $187 was the most recent sale, but PSA 10s are $415, and I expect that to climb on call-up. PSA 10s are 42% gem rate. PSA 9s are 51% gem rate, so you got a 50-50 shot pretty much of getting a 9 or a 10. If you get a 9, you're going to lose about $40 as the PSA 9 sold for $163. So you're about $20 more raw than a 9 plus your $20 grading fee. So you're going to be out about 40 to 50 bucks with fees and shipping if it gets a 9. But at a 50% chance that it gets a 10, and you can 2.5 times your money with $415, that is a play I'm willing to take a chance on. Also, because I think that Woods cards are going to climb, I think that PSA 9 is a little bit undervalued right now when you look at that 9 compared to some of the other guys' PSA 9s. I think that you're going to see that card climb, and it might allow you to break even by the time that he gets called up. So I like that as a raw to grade play. 2023 Bowman Chrome Ethan Salas. Non-auto, I am looking at the refractor non-auto numbered to $4.99. This is a play that I am currently assembling 20 of. I've got 7 of them so far. I've been paying right around $30 a piece for them. I've paid as much as $32, $33, and I've gotten a couple for $25, $26, but it's averaging out to about $30 a card. That's what I'm hoping for. The PSA 9 is $40. So if you get a PSA 9, you're going to lose 10, 15 bucks with grading fees and shipping. But if you get a PSA 10, it's $100, and you essentially triple your money or double your money based on what you have for cost in it. But the PSA 10s are sitting at a 45% clip, and the PSA 9s are at a 45% clip. So they're, again, much like the James Wood play, almost for a 50-50 chance at a 10 and doubling, or a little more than doubling my money. Also, with the knowing that his cards are going to climb between now and the beginning of next year, that is a play I am willing to take that little bit of a risk on a PSA 9 and go for some 10s. Jackson Holiday is another player that I am looking at doing a play on. Now that he did not make the big club, I sold out of almost all of my Jackson Holiday cards, and then I have about 6 base Chrome cards that are still, that I haven't listed yet. I'm holding those for the call up, but I am restocking the shelves, and I am going to do a 10 card play of his Chrome Refractor non-auto first. That card right now is selling for $55 to $60 raw. A PSA 9 sells for 60 bucks, so you're only out the grading fee if it gets a 9. But a 10 is selling for $200, so an opportunity to 4x your money, and it's got a 48% gem rate. So again, a 50-50 shot at 3 or 4xing your money on a player that is yet to get called up. That is a play that I am making. Remember, these are current prices. Even a PSA 9 should go up. Yes. So that is what I am talking about. So there's a little bit of risk in the PSA 9s, a small little loss that you would take. But by the time that you get them back from PSA, which, by the way, guys, PSA is absolutely flying. I just got an grades pop today on a bulk order that I mailed in on March 1st. I mailed it in on March 1st. They received it on March 4th, and the grades popped today. So I'm going to have those cards back next week, the first week of April, right around 30 days. That is absolutely flying on bulk orders. If they can continue to stay that fast, if you get some holiday cards in, you should be able to get them in, get them back before he gets called up. Another prospect that I'm looking at making a play on here is Paul Skeens. However, this I am looking for his base Chrome first autograph. Right now, I've got 3 of them sitting at PSA in an order that grades haven't popped yet. Those I was able to buy at early March, late February. I got those for around $125 a piece. They are up 50 bucks in the last 30 days. They are right around that $180 mark currently. However, a PSA 9 is selling for $203. So you can pay $180, get it graded for $20, and still break even on a PSA 9, and he hasn't been called up yet. I like my chances there. And a PSA 10 is selling for $475. So again, a little more than 2xing your money. And this card is gemming at 53%. So you're talking about a card that you got a better than 50-50 shot of 2+ xing your money, and he hasn't been called up yet. That is my number one play right now. I know he's a pitcher. My number one prospect baseball play. My number one overall play I'm saving here for just a second. But I really like that play, guys. Even though his cards are up, he hasn't been called up yet. When he gets called up, his cards are going to take another jump. So raw to grade, if you can get them in that $175, $180 range with the PSA 9 selling for a little over $200, I think that is a very safe, investable way to make some money here. Now, the number one play I'm going to leave you guys with today is going to be, maybe it's a surprise, maybe it isn't. It's hockey. Connor Bedard, Young Guns. I know this episode was pretty much a baseball episode, but I can't continue without talking about Connor Bedard. I do have 4 hobby boxes that I bought. My intentions were to throw them in the safe. I think I'm going to rip one of those live for you guys in a future episode. And then I'm going to keep the other 3 in the safe for a future investment. But Connor Bedard, Young Guns, you wouldn't think with the fact that it's a brand new release, you would think that this is a poor investment. And what is Dr. Crack talking about? Why is he recommending this play? Just take a look at the numbers, guys. The card, his Young Guns card has dropped almost 40% since it came out a few weeks ago, and it's going to continue to drop. Okay, spoiler alert, the card's going to continue to drop. I don't care. And I don't care because of the margins that are here right now. Take a look at these numbers. A Connor Bedard Young Guns, card number 451 in raw, currently is selling for $465, $470. When they came out, they were $1,000. So they're down 50%. And the card might fall another $100, $125 in the next 30 days, and that's okay. Because at $400, let's just call it $475. The most recent comp was $466. I'm going to call it $475 to give you guys an opportunity to make sure that you can buy one. The PSA 9 guys are selling for $615. These cards are fresh to the market. So find a guy that doesn't grade a lot of cards, or he ripped a box and he's just trying to flip it quick. A fresh pack pulled Connor Bedard Young Guns. The PSA 10s so far are 51% and 41% PSA 9s. There have been a couple of 8s, which I'm guessing is centering, or somebody wasn't real careful when they pack pulled it. But $615 for a PSA 9. That is $150 more than a raw card. So you could take that card. Right now they've got the special that you can for $29, the value plus special. It doesn't need to be a bulk play. So $30, you can take that card, send it in, and it's a 20-day turnaround time. So you're going to get that card back quick. And if they upcharge you because they rule that the card has a value greater than the maximum limit, that's a great thing. They're going to upcharge you to $75, but you get the card back quick. If you spend $475 and $75, you got $550, and a 9 is doing $615. Even after fees, you're going to break even on a 9, if not make a little bit if you could sell it on Facebook or MySlabs or someplace with not a lot of fees or a show. But his PSA 10, guys, is selling for $1,900. You're going to 4x your money on a card with a 50% gem rate. Find a breaker that just broke a bunch of hobby boxes and pulled 2 or 3 of them out of a case and they're selling them for 475 or 500 bucks a piece, you got a 50-50 shot of that card being a $2,000 card. Let's say the card drops another 25% in the next 45 days. If it gets a 10, it's still a $1,500 card. I don't see the downside on this play. So even though I have 4 hobby boxes, and I'm thinking I'm going to rip one for my pleasure and all of yours, I've got 4 on my watch list right now on eBay. I plan on buying. I'm planning on buying 2 or 3 of these raw Bedard singles, and I'm going to send them in and see if I can get one. If I buy 3 for 1,500 bucks and I get 110, the 2 9s are free and they're selling for 600 bucks a piece. I profit $1,000 on 3 cards for little to no effort. So that is my number 1 play of the week. I'm going to leave with you guys. I know this was a baseball episode, but the Bedard Young Guns, there is a huge opportunity for making money. You can take your $500 or $1,000 budget. If you have a $500 budget, spend it all on a Bedard card, get it graded, and if it gets a 10, you're gonna 4x your money. If it gets a 9, you're gonna break even on it, and then you go buy another one and try it again. So hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, I am also live on my YouTube channel, which is Chalks_Cards. So if you prefer to watch on YouTube instead of Instagram, go give me a like over there. I am trying to grow that channel. I know that it's a little bit easier for a lot of guys to view the YouTube channel than it is the IG lives, and then you can go back and watch them over and over again. So follow me over there on YouTube. Give me a like, comment, send me questions, message me. I'm here for you guys. Let me know what you need, and we will see you guys next week. Thanks, everybody.